Three words to describe rugby would be fun, challenging at times, and it's two words but really important.
Family, enjoyment and celebration.
Fun, friendship and life.
Exciting, dynamic and unpredictable.
Noisy, energetic and community, family orientated.
Fun, passionate and powerful.
Women's rugby, one of the fastest growing sports in the world, and after a summer of celebrations off the back of the Women's 2025 Rugby World Cup, the question is, what is women's rugby beyond the tournaments, and how do conversations on the topic of continuing to grow at momentum take place? Local rugby clubs are the heart of development and creating the next generation of rugby players. Here in Northampton, clubs like Northampton Casuals and Old Northamptonians have seen a massive growth in their girls and women's programmes. With more women and girls getting involved in the sport, introduction of new job roles have been implemented to oversee these programmes. Nikki Rogers has recently been appointed the role of Head of Girls and Ladies Sport at Old Northamptonians, but it is more than just getting girls on the pitch.
I think for myself, it's about the confidence, it's about identity, leadership, and those things don't just belong in one sport. If we get it right, girls just don't become rugby players. They become lifelong participants in all sports. We've felt it directly. We've had more girls turning up, more women turning up, more interest from parents, more demand than ever before. But I think also with that comes responsibility. So clubs have to be ready to support that growth. There has to be the right coaching in place, the right culture, the right structures. But I think that's exactly why here at Old Northamptonians, roles like mine have been introduced. We need to make sure locally, especially with clubs, can meet the moment and not lose it.
But despite the fact that the numbers are on the rise, it is important that research is done to look into what has caused a dispersion in the uptake of girls in rugby and sport in general, and how moving forward attitude changes and more open conversations can help with encouraging the continued development of women in sport. According to the Women's Sport Foundation, girls are twice as likely as boys to drop out from sport at the age of 14. And with access being one of the main reasons girls leave, what more can be done to give girls the opportunity to participate? Kirsten Flower is a PhD student at Swansea University, researching women's rugby in England. She's looked into the dropout rate of girls in sport and what changes can be made to make it more inclusive.
Yeah, so when we're talking about stigma and breaking the stigma in women and girls rugby, I think it's important to start with the perceptions that, again, that girls don't want to play rugby, and they do. So some of my research has found that was one of the biggest barriers to women and girls playing rugby, was not having the access at school. And it was over 50% of those that I spoke to said that was a massive barrier, and they had to then go out of school to get that access. And the impact of school and being able to play sport with your friends is humongous, right? Not just for girls, but boys as well. You know, whilst boys can go down to the local football club with all their friends at school, I don't think girls are offered that same chance. So firstly, when we're looking at breaking down stigmas, I think simply having access at school would be incredibly helpful. Once you play sport at school and you're not saying the boys can go off and do this and the girls can go off and do this, it becomes way more normalised, and it's a sport that both boys and girls see as possible.
In October, the RFU launched its new Action Plan for Women's Rugby, designed to help continue focus on growth and expenditure of the women's game. Since the last action plan in 2021, there has been a 38% rise in the number of female players, showing more women and girls are getting involved in the sport. Not only this, the data shows the importance of visibility, with match attendances more than doubling and the annual investment in the women and girls game tripling, creating new opportunities. The chance of growth within local rugby is one of the main reasons why Northampton was so keen to be a host location for the World Cup. Peter Cox, who is the head of Sport, Leisure and Culture at West Northamptonshire Council, played a key part in getting the tournament to this rugby town.
Well, the hope at the very beginning when we were putting the bid together was that when people during the tournament hosting, that people would be in a queue and they'd be having a conversation about the Women's Rugby World Cup and everything that was wrapped around it. So I think what we really hoped was that we would see the tournament delivered really well and the engagement from people, which we did see, and that in 12 months' time, people are still going to be talking about the Women's Rugby World Cup and how great it was, and the fact that we've seen local clubs grow their women and girls teams and the number of players that they've got as well. So that's all part of that. But we've seen lots of different spin-offs as well, where we've had local films made, we've had an arcade machine made, we had buses wrapped in the area. So it was more over and above just the sport. I think that was the most important thing for us.
This growth within local rugby clubs is felt throughout the different ages, from the youngest athletes up to the ladies team and into the professional game. They are noticing how much progress is happening. PWR Saracens player and Welsh international Amelia Tuck came back to Old Northamptonians, where her rugby journey began, to talk to the players and be part of their celebrations, and thinks the progress in women's rugby is heading for a bright future.
So impressive seeing how many girls there are playing now. When I was playing, there was barely enough of us to even fill a team, let alone for there to be multiple teams playing at all different ages. It's so exciting and really positive for the future. Seeing everyone supporting the game is just, it's exhilarating, and each game growing more and more fans. It's just so great for the sport in general. I think just using the World Cup as that pivotal moment and keeping the momentum going and not letting it die down. I think just using that high and carrying on from that so that we don't plateau and it doesn't just stay stagnant, because the potential of the future is so huge that I think if we just keep going with it now and everyone keeps talking about it, everyone supports people, brings a friend, keeps buying those tickets, pick a fan and then just follow them along their journey, it's the way to go, I think.
Tackling the stigma that rugby isn't a sport for women is something which is big here in Northampton. With many clubs having large female programmes, the messaging starts with the youngest athletes, including these three youngsters who take part in the under-6 section at their rugby club.
Is rugby just for boys, or is rugby for boys and for girls?
Boys and girls.
Do you think more girls should play rugby?
Yeah.
Coaches like Jess Dougherty also emphasise the importance of having female role models on the pitch. By having female coaches training them and getting involved in their rugby experiences from an early age, it helps to promote that rugby is a sport for all.
I think it's really important that they feel, the girls particularly feel represented, which was why I felt it was important for me to be a coach. I'll be honest, I was initially offered sort of the management role, which is basically just sending emails and texts, the organisation part, and I made it very clear that actually the girls themselves need to be and feel represented. But also I think the boys like having a female as a coach as well, and they will all come to me as well. So I think it's just about them playing together and experiencing it together. But I do a lot of congratulations to the girls as well, to make sure that they feel encouraged and included in everything we do.
Whilst looking into the growth of women's rugby and local rugby clubs, you can't help but notice how special the bonds are between the players and the momentum in the growth in the community. With more teams and more players, the opportunity seems endless. Hannah Collier found finding a team hard when she first started her rugby journey 10 years ago. But since finding her end, she felt like she belongs in a family and feels as players and as teams, individuals hold a responsibility to continue talking about women's rugby.
We all have a responsibility, like as players or as people that watch and enjoy rugby, to talk about it and to include people in that conversation and to encourage people to get involved. But I think like on a club level kind of and senior RFU level is to keep pushing that and to keep giving women the same amount of viewership as we have, do you know what I mean, and really pushing that, really advertising the women's games, making the leagues more accessible, do you know what I mean? And I think that's something we could be better at. The awareness being where it is now, I think is massively important, and from the last 2 years I've probably seen a growth in the amount of players that we've had come to the club, the amount of women that want to play or want to try it out, and from that we've been able to build a really lovely atmosphere and a buzz about it, and I think the World Cup was kind of penultimate for that. It really kicked it off.